Wait, this lighting is so
This lighting is
bad.
makeshift, but it's
Oh.
acceptable.
Oh, it's so
acceptable.
bad.
Okay.
Whatever. Wait.
I covered it with a sticker. Okay.
Oh.
Now it's your turn to ask me the question. So what's the question?
How do you naturally lead a woman?
How do you naturally... Saying it like that makes it sound really unnatural.
No, you talked about how it's important for a man to be able to lead a woman in a way that is something that just flowing, that isn't something that you have to force yourself into.
It's hard to explain because it's not something you can explain as a guy. Because if you could explain it, it's not natural anymore. But what was it that you said about the comprehensive thing?
It's this idea of being able to
Sorry.
to lead in a way that
Don't worry. It smells really bad right now. Okay, what can you do? Do you want to ask me the question?
Wait, it's actually, we were talking about, okay, so for context, we were talking about male leadership.
What it means to be a comprehensive man.
What it means to be a comprehensive man and be able to lead
Yeah.
a woman in a way that makes her willingly follow without feeling like she has to, so that it brings out a natural surrenderance in her.
And I said, like, to actually get there, it takes not doing that, to not try and lead a woman, but to do everything else around actually. Like, I think a lot of it actually has to do with your mindset, but not in a way that's like law of attraction sort of thing, but it's more of like a understanding that when you marry this woman, you're going to be a husband and you're going to potentially, very likely going to be a dad. And just having that in mind and just thinking in a very, very grand scheme of things, like the long term, and think like, okay, well, how, so this is where you start. First you start with like understanding that when you be with this woman, you want to be with her for life, and you want to be her husband, and you want to be a father. And then once you're there, the next step is, okay, well, how would I want my children to see me when they grow up? Do I want them to look at me as a son? Do they want to look at me and say, I want to be like my dad one day? Or would they as a daughter look at me and say, I want to marry someone like my dad? Right? So that's the foundation. And then the next step is recognizing, okay, well, once you look at that, you're like, what areas in my life do not fit that aspect of who I need to become, basically. So this has nothing to do with like ego and like putting on a persona. This is everything to do with like understanding from a practical standpoint as a guy, what would it take for you to actually be that father that you need to be and be that husband, right? Because like, and you can draw this from examples in your life. I would recommend drawing examples from your life, not from like movies and folklore and stuff like that, even though that's helpful, but it's just, that's way too idealized. You want something that's rooted and grounded in reality, right? So for me, I have a mentor right now. We recently went to a youth camp and he brought like 4 of his daughters along, and like they were playing around while he was doing the activities and stuff. And it was really cool to see like his wife there taking care of the girls, and him being present with that, like working whilst being a dad, like. And then when we had activities and when we had games, they actually helped out as well. Like these girls like cutting up stuff, stamping stuff for us, and like, because we had this like Monopoly-esque game, and they were like giving us stamps and handing us money and stuff, which is really fun. Seeing those little girls do that for the family, you know. But I would say like that's one of the examples I would draw from. Is like, for a long time I've always had this dream of like working alongside my kids and teaching them to do what I do. So the next step, so that's steps 1 and 2. The third step is looking at that example and see, okay, well, in what ways am I not like this person? In what ways am I not? So one of the examples would be like, I'm not as calm as he is. I am not as patient as he is with the kids or with my girl. Or I'm not as capable at doing this. I'm not as understanding. I'm not able to answer their questions as well. Or it's like I'm not able to be that presence for someone who's younger than me, who I need to guide and lead. Yes. I'm just saying, like, that was going through my head at the time, and then looking at areas in your life where you can grow that skill practically. And for me, that was like leading other people, at church as a sort of like semi leader, like an informal kind of leader for youth, and just thinking about, okay, well, how can I engage better with younger people? How can I see them in a way and build them up in a way that's very beneficial from like a big brother sort of standpoint, right? And starting with that, like, or just if you're in a family, like if you're one of the older siblings, like think about how you can treat your siblings in a way that's better. Like just think of it comprehensively as like, okay, well, if I become a father or a husband today, and I actually want to be a good father and a husband, what do I need to do, basically? And then once you do that, and once you actually follow through with doing all these things, you will find that your woman will just want to follow you, because your woman will see that you actually are trying. Or, it moves beyond the trying, but you actually are becoming that father and husband that she would want her kids to have. And if you act and if you make your decisions and you act, when I say comprehensive, it means that you're actually consistent with the idea of who you need to be, or like your self-identity is consistent. It's not, your ego is not overshooting, it's not undershooting, it's just exactly who you are, right? And so everything you do will match up completely with what you think and what you say. For the most part, I mean, everyone's going to fall short, right? But for the most part, it's completely consistent. And because of that, your woman will look at that and say, well, this is a trustworthy man that I can put I can embrace, basically, and follow. And so you don't even have to try to lead, because you know where you need to go, and you'll just go there, and you can just tell her, like, I'm going to do this because it's going to be better for X, Y, Z reason. And she's just going to follow you because she knows where you're going. And she knows who you are. She knows the kind of person you want to be with her. So she's just going to go, okay. Like, it's simple at that point, because she can see what's going on, and she can feel that, yeah, you are trying to be that husband. And hopefully you're not trying anymore. You just are that husband and father that she needs to be. She needs you to be. So that's really what like natural leadership looks like. It's not complicated. It doesn't have to be complicated like that, but it is difficult in the sense that the things surrounding it require a lot of work. You get that, and it requires a lot of self-reflection to see which areas are falling short. But I think if as a guy you're thinking in the mindset of like, how can I lead a woman better? How can I be a better man? That's only the beginning, because answering that question means taking the long route and checking off all the other boxes that has basically nothing to do with gratifying yourself. It has nothing to do with leading people. It has nothing to do with like, oh, I'm so manly. It has everything to do with all the other stuff that you need in order for that to even matter.
Wow, I really love the points you brought up, especially in the process of becoming. And you mentioned consistency, self-reflection. Do you want to dive deeper into how you self-reflect, and what do you do if things weren't as consistent as you hope it would be?
Well, I would say self-reflection for me, it's just, I think it's a conscience thing for me. It's a exercise of conscience, because when something goes wrong, when something I know has happened in my life, or I made a decision that was bad, I can feel that. And so self-reflection really is just taking that into account and thinking like, oh, how could I have done that better? And that could happen. That basically happens every day, you know? I feel like, oh, I missed the mark there. But it's not in a way that's like self-deprecating. It's like, oh, you're such a terrible person. But it's more of like okay, well, let's see how I can improve, how I can get better at this. And what was the other one? Like the process of becoming, right?
Yeah.
Excuse me. Well, I would say becoming was a long process for me, but it was a lot of, I would say for me, the path of becoming took me down a lot of paths that made me like, really like, how do I say it? Like really ascetic, as in like just completely like devoid of anything, you know? Because in a sense, like going through that path of becoming,
like very brute.
Yeah, like requires you to strip away everything you hold dear, basically, except the things that you know you should keep. But the path of becoming often takes you down a road where you have to give up a lot of things that you know that don't serve you anymore, but you have to give up because you're going somewhere that if you hold on to those things, for example, one of them for me was like video games, or like a more serious one would be like pornography, right? If I held on to that, I would not be able to do basically any of the things I'm doing now, especially with her. And becoming would mean that you're losing out on those things that you hold dear, or you even consider a part of who you are. like part of your identity. You know, I used to consider myself a gamer or identify with like the gaming community or whatever, and it means taking yourself out of that and saying like, well, okay, well, I'm gonna reject that aspect of myself because I recognize that that's not who I actually am. I recognize that I need to be a father. I recognize I need to be a husband, right? So living up to your calling and recognizing which things don't line up to your calling, and then eventually getting there by stripping those things aside. But it's not stripping it aside and stripping down yourself is only the start of it. But the next step would be actually building on top of the clean slate that you have.
Like growing new flowers in a garden that you just strip away the weeds from.
Exactly, yeah. And I would say actually, God plays a lot into that as well. God sees what you're doing. And for me, when I started stripping away all these things, God started putting things in my life that was going to help me on the journey. It didn't make it easier sometimes. Sometimes it made it harder, but it was necessary. It was a necessary part of the journey.
Wow.
And then near the end of that journey, I got her, actually. So like my slate was basically almost clean at that point. And then God introduced her into my life to basically clean out the other stuff that I could not have cleaned out myself.
And the timing was actually very timely.
Yeah, exactly. Like God basically set me up. All the essentials were like gone. So it was like pornography was gone. Video game addiction was gone, all these other stuff, like all this crap was gone, and I was getting more disciplined in my life. I was committed to working harder, not just sitting on my ass all day. And then basically the foundations of being someone who's responsible, you know. And then as soon as that happened, she walked into my life, and at the time I didn't even accept that she was the one for me. I was just sort of sitting there going like, yeah, she could be it.
That's
and
weird.
Then, and then eventually after a while I was like, okay, well, she is the one. And it was like a grueling process of a few months to a year before I was like, okay, well, there's no one else who I should be with except for her.
Not because you feel like...
Not because I'm compelled to, but just... it's
hard
to explain, but it's not because I'm
story,
compelled to.
It's not because you felt like you were missing out.
Absolutely not. So the process of becoming for me had everything to do with chopping down the old and putting on the new, basically. And in Christian language, it would be called sanctification, right? But in this sense, it's a more comprehensive sanctification because it's for a specific purpose now. It's not like for an eternal purpose necessarily, but it's more of like an immediate, I need to be a husband, or I need to be a father, I need to be a person who runs a business well, I need to be someone who works hard, I need to be someone who makes X amount of money, whatever, could be anything. And yeah, it's just, the process of becoming is really simple actually. It's just identifying which areas you're falling short, going after that, and committing to that. But it's simple, but it doesn't mean it's easy.
Yeah.
So, and that ties into like how to lead a woman well, because like once you become a comprehensive person, like, okay, just to be honest here, there are very few guys who exist in the West who are remotely comprehensive on any way. And that's not to boast on myself, but that's just like the whole point, like the whole value system of society is like completely flipped upside down. So of course the guys aren't. Like they're gonna be committed to all the wrong things that aren't actually gonna take them to a place where it would be good for them, right? And I would see myself as someone who just stumbled on the path of actually getting to that place, which is actually gonna give me and also Vanessa and like our future family a lasting place. So a place that isn't just gonna like rush away because your boss fired you or whatever, or because this girl broke up with you.
I actually have a foundation to...
I don't see myself as someone who's like, oh, I'm such a strong person for committing through it. Less so than that, but more of like I'm here because I could have been like them, but I was pushed down a different path that led me to this place now. But that's also I think the point of me doing these videos, renouncing all these things like hustle culture and like influencer culture and like people like Hamza and all these people, because those people led me down the wrong path. I was on that path, and in a sense they have this idea of like being a comprehensive person, being strong, doing all these, but they miss the main point and they never actually generate consistent results.
What would you say the main point is?
The main point is having actually the grand scheme of things in mind. It's very easy for us to talk about the grand scheme of things. Big picture. It's very easy for us to talk about the big picture, but it's difficult for us to actually commit to it 5-10 years down the line, you know. And I would even make it up to my own disposition. Like I was, you know, I've always had a desire for like family and to have lots of kids and to be a father. So that aspect of it came really naturally to me. And for you, it could look like, I don't know, running a business and being financially free, which is a big thing today. It could be like losing weight or gaining weight or building more muscle, being stronger, stuff like that. Like it's all of those things. I would say are pretty simple and general today. Like they're not a stretch for you to get, right? But I would say the family thing for me is definitely a disposition thing. It's like more of a I'm already personally committed to it, so it makes it easier for me to go down the path, right? So really, in a way, like I'm just doing what comes natural to me, and really just living out the fullest extent to what that naturalness is, rather than skimping or cutting down on what I could actually achieve. I'm just going all in on that, and I think that looks different for everyone. Because
like what is given in your heart?
What is given in your heart, and actually committing to that when you know it's good. You know, I don't know if that truly answered the question. What did you ask again?
I like the points you brought up. I can't really remember what I said, but there was we were talking about
something about the right path, right?
Yeah.
So going down the right path.
Going down the right path. Yeah.
Yeah, just like
the journey, the becoming.
The journey to becoming, like all of it was definitely not up to me because I had no idea where to go.
Anyway.
The birds agree with me. But I genuinely had no idea where to go because it's really, if you live in Queensland, you know what this is like. Every day at 4 a.m. you have these birds waking you up. Okay, it's not 4 a.m. now though. Anyway, like I can't say that I invented this, so nor can I say that like I made it my own. I just followed the path because it was the only choice I had. It was either this, like going down this path, or it was literally rock bottom and suicide for me.
Yeah.
So I can't really credit this to anyone except for God.
That's a really good one.
Yeah, so like the journey of becoming, that's why I say it looks different for everyone. And there has to, I think for me, I believe this, there has to be a genuine reason for you to take it. If you're just doing it because you think it's going to make you feel good, you think it's going to look cool, you're probably not going to stick to it because it's actually it's not something that truly speaks to you.
Yeah.
Right, but it just takes, I mean, there is an aspect of liking it, right? But it's not just something who's like, oh, you woke up one day and just realized, oh, out of the blue, randomly, with no precedent whatsoever. Like, I never grew up with this vision. I just thought of it because I thought it would be fun. That wouldn't be, like, if you just saw some random influencer on Instagram, like, deadlifting 500 pounds. And you're like, oh, I want to get into the gym now. Which, I mean, could be a valid reason, but I think for the vast majority of guys, you need something that's more than just, I feel like doing it. There has to be a necessity, really that it has to be a part of your calling as a man. Like as men, we have different gifts and skills that we possess, and in a sense it takes doing what you like to find out what it is, right? But you can't just out of the blue randomly decide to choose something and then just commit to that, and then I'm actually, and then you get to the end of the road, which is very rare, but you get to the end of the road and you're like, actually I don't even like the place that I'm at right now. I didn't even want to be here.
Not satisfied.
Yeah, because like it's not you, it's not who you're meant to be, it's not your calling.
That's why people lose motivation.
Yeah, and I know so many people who have been part of the hookup culture and just like they've slept around, done all these things. So many of them at the end of the road were like, this isn't what I signed up for. I thought going through this road was the way to true love. Or I thought true love didn't exist and I could only do this to find fulfillment. But then at the end of the day, I didn't find fulfillment, right? It's because you never actually wanted to do it in the first place. You just did it because it was either the best available option you had at the time. No, it's not the best available. It's the easy available option to you at the time. Or is something that you just thought would be nice. And that is 100% the wrong motivation to do something and commit your life to.
Yeah.
So it definitely takes doing what you like, but you also need to understand that there are certain things instilled in you and there's certain things that you feel really deeply about the world, about how you want to live life, all these things that you actually want to do, that actually things in the world that actually speak to you in a way that's tangible, in a way that's lasting, right? Something that's been gnawing at the back of your head for like years or even decades. Yeah, and to me, like, it was difficult for me to find that as well, because sometimes those things come deceptively. It manifests itself in all kinds of different forms.
That's a really good point.
And like for a long time, I was in the secular dating sort of thing as well. Like I was dating in a way a secular person would date, like just dating to get a kick, basically. Even though I wasn't consciously aware I was doing that, I was doing that. And actually, I didn't really want to do that, but the reason why I did it was because I thought that was how you got to where I am now with Vanessa. I thought that was how you get here. I've wanted this all along. So some of the ways it could be trying to act and respond to situations could actually be leading us down the wrong path, even though we have the right motivations in mind to pursue something that we actually want to do. So I would say the path of becoming is a difficult journey, even though it's simple, because you're easily led astray, because it's very hard today to find elders who can actually guide you on this path. And so many times you have to stumble in the dark alone until you find that person. But I would say 100% I would not be here without God. I would not be here without some of my mentors who showed me the way, basically. And it has nothing to do with how well I did. It has everything to do with the people God put in my life and the people that God consistently puts in my life and His guidance for me. And yeah.
And that's how you found your purpose.
That's how I'm here. That's why I'm here. Like speaking on YouTube and everything.
Clearer and
100%. Like you can even see, the thing is, like, you can even see through some people's photos and the way they carry themselves. Like you can like sort of tell when someone's like really confused and lost in life. And she definitely saw that in me.
Yeah,
as well.
yeah. At the beginning, there's just so many people around me commenting on, oh, Vanessa, you should like put second thought on who you're gonna date, who you're actually dating, because they looked at his picture, which is so different to now. I'd say, and he just looks confused and a little bit like you were looking like you were a bit lost.
I was trying to do everything instead of actually doing anything.
Yeah.
So of course I looked confused because I didn't even know what I was doing.
yeah. There's this blankness in the eye, but then it's something that you can see in someone's photo sometimes if you look closely enough.
Anyway, that's kind of esoteric, but this is 100% from her. I learned that from her. I didn't actually know that before. I didn't pay attention to people's eyes when they take a picture.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's just.
But yeah, it's. Also, another thing is like, you know, we're gonna tell this video like how to lead a woman and stuff. So like the people who are gonna be here, if you watched to this point, thank you. But just also like, most of you guys are probably here, like a lot of you guys are probably here because you think leading a woman takes this strategy or takes this way of doing things. It takes that, but in a sense, to lead a woman well first means leading yourself. It first means mastering yourself. And how do you master yourself? You first have to find out what the hell you're here on earth to do, and then you have to get on that path.
And
actually walk it. And now you start to figure out, oh, here are the ways I should act. Here are the decisions I should make. This makes sense for me because I'm going to do this. Like, that's why I say it's a comprehensive picture, because it involves every aspect of life.
And of you and your commitment.
Tied to you, like all your commitments, all your life choices, all your things, all of it linked to you.
And your mindset and everything.
Yeah, like everything. That's what gives you the strength and the power to first live through life. To have the strength to carry yourself, and then on top of that, to carry a woman next to you, because that's what really you're doing. You're first carrying yourself, and then because that overflows, you can now carry a woman next to you. It has nothing to do with strategies. It has basically nothing to do with the next trick, or look at her this way, or stand this way, or like adjust your body language. All these things, your body language will fix itself if you're on the path. Once you fix the inner thing, once you fix all the things, like, and guys who have confidence issues, like I'm speaking to you as well, you don't have confidence issues like arbitrarily. There are issues there, they're sort of like symptoms to a disease. There's something behind those issues that you have psychologically and spiritually that you should definitely look into. You know, there's stuff like what kind of traumas you've experienced in the past. You know, why are you so afraid of talking to girls now? What happened to you? Or like, why are you afraid of a commitment? Or why do you think that women are out to get you? Right? And actually think deeply like, okay, well, why? And actually being truly honest with yourself. And to be honest, I think, as it did for me, most guys would not be able to get to that point of being so honest with themselves that they actually find the solution until they hit rock bottom, until they're literally on the verge of suicide. And like, it's either this, I fix this issues, I fix my life, or I'm literally flying into the river. you know? And it's pretty heavy, but honestly, that was how it was for me. And I don't want that for you guys, but it's just, there is a sense that so many of us only do what we need to do when we're on the verge of having to make a choice like that.
When we hit rock bottom.
When we hit rock bottom, like, and I told her a few days ago, like, sometimes it takes hitting rock bottom for you to find the ground to put your feet on, so you can actually jump back up again.
That's a
like,
pretty good analogy.
If you're just falling, you can't really do anything. And I don't want to say that as an excuse for some of you
people
guys
to hit
who are
rock
working
bottom,
through stuff, to put down you guys or anything. But it's just to say, like, sometimes the reality of the situation is very confronting. But I want to encourage you guys to confront the situation, not to just be self-deprecating, to let down, to make yourself less, but to see the situation as it is, and to think and just tell yourself, I actually want to live. I do want to live my life, and my life can be worth living. If only I find this ground, and I jump off from it, and you can find it. It's possible, and I encourage all of you to seek God as well. Pray to Him.
Yes.
And actually get Him to seek Him, because that 100% like changed my life. If not for God, I would be dead right now, or like very, very damaged. Yeah. So anyway, it's kind of a heavy point. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah. It's been such a good conversation, I think.
Thanks to her, I turned on the camera, because I wouldn't have turned on the camera if she didn't.
Yeah, because we were just having a conversation, and I was like, recording, and then he just took out the phone and just started recording. So it's really spontaneous, and I love this conversation as well. Yeah, I just had one more thing that I suddenly forgot.
It's the kebabs. That's the halal snack pack.
There's one thing, and it's girding my head, and then I forgot.
It's mixed in with the lamb sauce.
Honesty, integrity.
What kind?
Because you talked about actually confronting something and being honest with the thing, and I think that takes a lot of gut, because it's like dying to yourself and your ego and what you cling on to that that you thought has been true to you all these times, and having to let that go. And I think that was like something you've been talking about. Yeah.
And it's like, how can a woman feel safe from following you if you're not even integral and honest with yourself? If you're not even acting in integrity with who you are, and if you're not actually comprehensive at all, because I truly believe this. It is possible for a guy to find a good woman and to lead her well, but it takes that integrity, that honesty, first with yourself, so much so that it overflows to her, and so much so that she can feel safe following you. And the reason why I emphasize good woman is that a good woman will want to follow you. She instinctively does want to follow you. She doesn't want to go against you. She's not a crazy blue-head feminist who just wants to wreck you and take all your kids. There are good women out there. Here's one example right here, and there's plenty around my community that I can see as well. They're definitely out there, and it's like, I don't want you guys to just come up with a doom and response like, oh, it's just you, like you're just so privileged. Like, well, I didn't choose. I was never like this. I didn't come from a family that was just 100% whole. Even though my parents are still here, like they're not divorced or anything. They went through a lot of stuff. They went through struggles, and I was in a dark place. I was depressed for so many years. And yeah, like I keep saying in this video, like I was like at the lowest of my low, and they really had no way out, and everything else was failing. I was suffering in basically every area of my life. But it is possible to get out of it. It is possible to come out of it, but it takes being honest with yourself. It takes being honest with your situation. And then once you're honest with yourself, once you're integral, once you have integrity, once you're whole, now you can start looking at someone else and say, I want to do that to you. I want to be honest, integral, and all these things, and lead you with me. Take her with you on a journey together, which is what leading really is all about. If you don't really even want to lead yourself, or if you feel like you don't even want to lead the life that you live right now, why would you take a woman on and try to lead her? Most of the time, like if you're having trouble leading women, it's probably because there's an aspect of your life that is struggling to come together, and it's 100% definitely face that first before you think about it.
Yes.
And if it's a consolation, yes, at the end of the road, if you become that person, if you become that man who you always meant to be, she'll be right there with you. She'll be there. She'll show up. But God isn't just going to throw you someone to just make you feel better for now, but to have you suffer longer consequences with someone who doesn't actually love you, or someone who isn't actually good for you, which is even more of a bigger concern, right? Staying with someone who you actually never liked you in the first place, who's just there to get off your benefits, or who's just there because they thought it was nice for a few moments. You know,
that's a really good point.
It's a terrible way to assess someone for marriage and for a long-term relationship. So anyway,
I think people want true love, and you gotta be.
You have to be true to get true love.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the hard thing. The hard thing is actually being true to yourself, being true to God.
Yes. You finished my sentence, and that is literally what I was gonna say. If you want to find true love, you gotta be true to yourself. Otherwise.
And being true to God. It's not just being true to who you are, and it's not just being true to
you're not just putting
whoever you are right now.
And everything. Yeah.
Being true to who you actually are supposed to be according to God's will.
Yeah. Not just like a persona or an ego.
Not just like an ego thing you put on, like, I'm going to be like Andrew Tate. I'm going to start acting like him. I'm going to start talking like him. No, that's ridiculous. Like, every girl can see through that. Like, every good woman you actually want to be with can see through that.
That's a good point.
But anyway, I've talked like I'm rambling a lot now.
But yeah, it's been an amazing chat, I think.
Yeah. Hope you guys like that one. This was never supposed to be like a duo thing today, but I guess we're doing it.
Like
so.
Spontaneous.
Yeah.
As it is.
Hope you guys enjoy that one.
Yay.
Sorry about the lighting.
It's an iPhone camera.
It's an iPhone 12.
Bye.
See, I don't have a ring light. Yeah. Sorry, I don't know why I said that.